Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a massive shift in India's agrarian landscape, looking specifically at how the mountain state of Himachal Pradesh is literally revolutionizing agricultural policy by, well, going back to its roots. We're going to be looking at the numbers, the grassroots realities, and the specific policies driving this transition for the year 2026 and beyond.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how we frame this transition. For decades, the Green Revolution pushed these incredibly input-heavy, ecologically damaging methods, right? But now, we're seeing a hard pivot toward time-tested Indian agrarian wisdom. At the absolute center of this Hindu ecological knowledge is the revered desi cow. It's treated not just as livestock, but as the actual engine for creating zero-chemical, biologically rich soil. And look, this isn't just nostalgia. It is a highly practical, modern policy pivot targeting long-term soil regeneration. So here is our roadmap for today's policy evaluation. We'll cover 1. Ancient wisdom meets modern policy. 2. The sustainable economic shift. 3. Sirmoor district, real-world challenges. 4. Certification and market bottlenecks. 5. Government subsidies and price support. And finally, 6. A blueprint for national replication. Let's get into it. Section 1. Ancient wisdom meets modern policy, specifically focusing on Subhash Palekar natural farming. This beautifully illustrates how traditional Indian inputs systematically restore the soil's native biology without a single drop of synthetic chemicals. It's basically a 4-pillar framework. You start with Bijamrata, which is a seed treatment using cow dung and urine to prevent disease. Then you've got Jivamrata. Think of it as a liquid microbial activator that brings the soil microflora back to life. Next up is Asharan, or mulching, to lock in that crucial moisture. And finally, Wapasa, aerating the soil to balance water and oxygen. The big takeaway here? It's a closed-loop ecosystem. It uses historical Hindu agricultural practices to actively heal the soil instead of just extracting from it. All right, moving to Section 2, the sustainable economic shift, breaking the debt cycle. Honestly, this number blew my mind. Studies across the state show a 36 to 44% drop in out-of-pocket cultivation costs. By relying completely on internal farm inputs, local vegetation and those cow formulations we just talked about, farmers are finally freed from the crushing, debt-inducing cycle of constantly buying commercial chemical fertilizers. For any policymakers tuning in, this is your proof. Eliminating synthetic inputs dramatically increases long-term profitability. Just look at the benefit-cost ratio, or BCR. In conventional chemical farming, because input costs keep climbing, the BCR sits at around 2.5. But with natural farming, because the cultivation cost plummets, that BCR shoots up to an impressive 5.4. It's literally a game changer. Saving the soil is actually doubling the economic efficiency of these small family farms. Which brings us to Section 3, Sirmoor District, Real-World Challenges. Let's look at the actual hurdles on the ground. To really ground our policy analysis, we need a micro lens into the tangible, day-to-day friction farmers face when transitioning. This Indian Journal of Ecology study looked at 60 smallholder farmers in the Sirmoor district. It's a mountainous, very rural region where the rugged terrain itself makes any kind of agricultural shift incredibly tough. We really have to empathize with the daily realities these folks are dealing with. So, looking at the data, there's a very clear hierarchy of problems. The absolute #1 bottleneck, cited by nearly 59% of the farmers, is the lack of specialized markets. Imagine growing pristine, chemical-free crops, but having to sell them at regular, conventional market rates. It's incredibly frustrating. The second biggest hurdle is that this method is super labor-intensive. Mixing the Jivamrita, applying the mulch, it takes serious manpower. But, and this is a huge but, disease occurrence ranks dead last at number 15. So while total disease suppression is a massive win, those market and labor bottlenecks are what's really holding back the scaling process. Let's unpack those hurdles in Section 4, certification and market bottlenecks. So how do we fix the market access gap? Well, the state came up with this brilliant grassroots innovation called CETARA-NF. Traditional organic certification is notoriously expensive and requires constant peer inspections, which is literally impossible when your farms are scattered across remote Himalayan terrain. CETARA-NF completely bypasses that by giving farmers a simple, digitized, and transparent platform to self-certify. It works like a progressive ladder. You start at the 1-star ANTRA level. That's your basic conversion away from chemicals. After a year, you move up to the 2-star Cytoharan level. And finally, you hit the 3-star Vashist rating, which proves a strict, exemplary adoption of natural farming ecology. Because of this digital system, over 1.98 lakh farmers now have a verifiable identity to show the market, which builds consumer trust and commands better prices. Next up, Section 5, Government Subsidies and Price Support. Let's see how the state puts its money where its mouth is. This is absolutely huge. Himachal Pradesh is actually the very first state in India to guarantee minimum support prices, or MSPs, specifically for natural produce. Look at these 2026 targets. Naturally grown wheat is secured at 80 rupees a kilo. Barley from the remote Pungi Valley, also 80 rupees. Maize is at 50, and raw turmeric is a massive 150 rupees per kilo. This visually proves the government's direct financial commitment. It effectively de-risks the entire transition period for the farmer. But they aren't stopping at just setting prices. They're building an entire supportive ecosystem. The government is handing out 25,000 rupee grants specifically to help farmers buy indigenous desi cows, the literal engine of this farming method. They also have a strict procurement target to buy directly from 63,000 farmers in 2026. Plus, using 50-50 funding from NABARD, they're building farmer-producer companies. These FPCs take the raw harvest and process it into premium goods under the state-backed Himbug brand. So farmers aren't just selling raw crops, they're plugged right into a value-added supply chain. Okay, final section. Section 6, a blueprint for national replication. How can other states copy this? If you're looking to align with the national mission on natural farming, here is your 4-pillar playbook. First, digitize self-certification to bypass terrain and cost hurdles for smallholders. Second, implement dedicated natural MSPs so farmers aren't taking a financial hit while their soil recovers. Third, fund the whole thing with a dedicated agricultural cess. Himachal cleverly uses a liquor tax to create a permanent funding pool. And fourth, develop state-backed premium brands to bridge the gap between rural farmers and lucrative urban consumers. The ultimate takeaway from all of this is pretty profound. Saving the soil and protecting a farmer's profit margins, they are no longer mutually exclusive goals. Himachal Pradesh is proving, right now, that by anchoring your agriculture in ancient Indian ecological wisdom and then backing it up with aggressive, modern market policies, you can totally rejuvenate a rural economy. So I'll leave you with this thought to consider for your own region's future. What specific local traditions or heritage crops could be revitalized in your state using this exact blueprint? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.